per hour, so it's barely moving at all. But just within the past couple of minutes, we are beginning to see some rotation, okay? Here's that rotation right there, where you see the greens and the yellows meeting up. If there were to be a tornado, and we don't have any confirmation that that has happened, that would be that location, okay? Anywhere inside the red polygon, if you live within that red polygon, you're gonna wanna seek shelter inside, as this will be moving off to the east-northeast. But again, that right there, that's where that rotation is that storm is gonna be shifting off to the northeast. Lightning has also become more dense. What does that tell us? If the lightning is becoming more dense, that means that there's a lot of updraft, a lot of energy that this storm is working with here, okay? So as we're seeing more lightning, that means that the storm is entering what we call the mature stage. So as we enter the mature stage, that's typically where tornadoes are most prevalent if they are to form. As we go ahead right now and take a look at the rainfall here, something else that we're extremely concerned about, the flooding potential. As we look here, some areas have received around 5 inches of rainfall. That is so much rainfall. That is more than what we typically see in a month, and some areas have had that within the past 3 hours. That is so much rainfall, and that's a big problem. If you do see some rainfall, I don't want to sound like a cliche, but turn around, don't drown, because flooding claims so many lives every year as we are tracking these storms. Now, let's actually go ahead and go back, because I want to do a town-by-town breakdown of where these storms are going to be heading. All right, so let's go back to the tornado. You can see it right there. All right, and I'm just stepping off the green screen, and I'm looking at some other tools right now. So we're going to go ahead and clear this, and we're going to go ahead and take off the lightning, and we're going to go and take off the warning as well, just so I can be able to get my bearings a little bit better here. Now, as we go ahead and take a look at this, let me move the map, and we're going to go ahead and do a storm track on this one to find out exactly where it's going to be moving. And the rotation is moving northeast at around 10 miles per hour. So that will put it here in Joppatown here at 7:52 p.m., and that is in just 3 minutes from right now. Again, that's going to be the location of where that is going to be pushing off to. Let's go back and clear this and go ahead and talk about some of the hail that we've been witnessing. And I'm going to go ahead and put a lapse on this so we can track it over the last 15 minutes. And then I'm going to step back on the screen to kind of walk you through what we're tracking. This right here, hail. So what the Doppler radar is sensing is that these are not liquid raindrops up in the cloud. These are ice particles. And in order to get hail, you have to have these really robust, strong updrafts here. Lots of wind moving upwards, sometimes 50 to 100 miles per hour, because that's how strong the updraft needs to be to suspend that hail. And just within the past 15 minutes, going back from 7:30 to 7:49, you can see that we're seeing higher densities of hail, more dense hail tracks showing up here on the map. All right, so hail is definitely going to be a problem as well. Let's go back to the radar so that we can go ahead and kind of show some of the cities and towns that this will be impacting. So we're going to go ahead and clear that, go back to the radar. We're going to go back into my show. There we go, starting right off here, and let's go ahead and zoom back in. So places like Bel Air, Falston, Baldwin, some of these are, hate to sound like a broken record, but a lot of these are the exact same towns that were impacted earlier today. At 5 o'clock this afternoon, we had a tornado warning over the same area. And so far, we did receive a report of a funnel cloud near the Harford County and Baltimore County line. No reports of it touching down, but we got to be safe. More safe than sorry. That's what you want to be in these situations. So this is Highway 1 right here. This goes up to Darlington. And then as we head down to Aberdeen, the storm is going to miss you guys out here in Aberdeen. And here's why I know that, because it's moving northeast. And so the circulation is going to track up and over Bel Air. All right, so Falston and Bel Air, you guys are going to want to be seeking shelter. You're not going to want to be stepping outside. If you have a basement, that's always the #1 preference, but Some of you guys don't have a basement, so what do you do in that situation? Well, you have a couple of options. You can get into an interior room, a closet. Most bedrooms have closets, so that's always a good idea. If you live in a high-rise apartment building, which there aren't too many of those this far north of town, you want to be as far away from windows as possible. This right here is the hail core, all right? So as we kind of break down exactly a little bit of where things kind of play out with these storms, almost always the circulation is down here. And a lot of times where the tornado is located, you actually won't have rainfall because that's the updraft. That's what's sucking up the air into the storm. And then this right here is the hail core, where, as I showed you a few moments ago, we were having hail upwards of quarter inch to 3/4 inch hail. That is very large. That can do damage to your homes, to your roofs, and to your cars. So again, even if you don't get a tornado, it's like, who cares if you have all this damage from hail? So many concerns here that we're talking about here. So Darlington, the storm is moving so slowly, it may actually not make it to the town of Darlington, because this is only tracking at 10 miles per hour. And if you're 20, 30, 40 miles away, it may not survive the trip, all right? And you got to remember that we've already had storms earlier today that have kind of stabilized the air mass, and so that can help to kind of hinder development as well. Jarrettsville is northwest. This is not going to impact you, but again, down here is we head just west of I-95, just north of Perry Hall. I think we did get a report of a funnel cloud located north of Perry Hall earlier today. Now, as this tracks up to the north, what do we have to be on the lookout for? We're going to be paying attention to the wind in the storm. Is that circulation strengthening or is it weakening? Those are the questions that I'm asking myself here as I'm tracking this storm. The way that this works is that every 5 minutes, we get a newly issued radar scan. Okay, so the last one came in at 7:50. The next one should be coming in around 7:55. And so that will give me more information. So what we're going to do is in the next 60 seconds, I'm going to walk off screen and I'm going to go ahead and take a look at our wind product, because that will tell me whether or not this is becoming more mature or if it has already passed that maturity phase and is dying off. So I'm going to go ahead right now and do that. A few more things to keep in mind when we're tracking these storms. Best place to be, obviously, inside. If you don't have a basement, an interior room, as we talked about before. But let's go ahead and go into analysis and give you the latest update here on the velocity. And okay, so as we get that latest velocity update, you'll see that things appear to be weakening a bit. So as we go back in time to about 7:40, you can see that magenta color. Let's go back in time there. You can see it briefly right there on the map. And now it's not as tightly packed. That's good. I think that's why this expires at 8 o'clock. You'll also notice that the greens were stronger. So the green, of course, is the wind going towards the radar. The red is the wind going away from the radar. Back at 7:45, that was more intense, and it moves so quickly. But as we go back, you can see it one more time. Right there, you can see that we had that darkish pink. That's why we issued that warning. But now that has gone away. Doesn't mean that there's not a tornado. I've seen weak returns on the radar and have had EF0s and EF1s being reported. So I don't want you to go back outside, not by any stretch of the imagination, but that is one indicator that we look at to see, okay, is it maturing or is it beginning to die off? So let's go ahead right now and get a look at, that was the wind profile. Let's go ahead and check in to see what the lightning is doing right now. And so as we looked at the lightning earlier, you can see that the density of flashes has actually been dropping off quite a bit. And you can see that as we look over the past half hour to 45 minutes or so, that the number of lightning strikes is a little bit lower. So that is good. But again, that's one indicator of the health of a storm. So let's go back to reflectivity. And I want to go ahead and get rid of the lightning product for you. I'm going to make your life super easy. So we're going to go back to my initial screen here. And you'll notice that this is, first of all, the only storm that we're tracking up here in Hartford County. Cecil County is farther to the northeast. Do you guys get the tornado warning? Probably not, because as I said, this is moving absolutely slow, okay? This is not a fast storm at all, not by any stretch of the imagination. So as we go ahead and query this so that we can kind of get a better idea of what towns will be impacted, I'm going to start from where that circulation has been located and go off to the northeast. And places like Riverside could be looking at the potential of that storm moving on through. Also Aberdeen, but again, keep in mind, even if you guys get the storm, the rotation may end. So all I'm doing right now is kind of drawing out where the storm is going, but when it gets to you, it might not have rotation. So you got to keep that in mind as well. So Perryville here at about 8:19 p.m., Port Deposit at 8:19. So that's in roughly 20 minutes from right now. Hopefully, that is set to expire. I'm hoping that it will expire here by about 8:20, but at this point in time, you know, these storms have been on again, off again all this evening. So we're going to be keeping tabs on that. Aberdeen is actually just outside the hail core. So what's interesting is that you guys may actually be close enough to the storm where you guys may actually get in on some of that hail out there. Same thing as we head up to Port Deposit. The hail core is not far from you, only about 10 miles to the southwest. And so you guys may be tapping into some of that hail as well. Perryville, though, is still a ways outside of that circulation. I mean, we're talking several miles here. So if it makes it to you, we're just going to be looking at, hopefully by that point, lower rotation and just some heavier rainfall, maybe some small hail. I think at that point in time, that's probably the best case in scenario. So again, moving off to the northeast, at only about 10 miles per hour, we are going to be tracking this tornado warning. It is set to expire here within the next 90 seconds. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up a NWS chat to see if we're getting any new information here. And so far, they are keeping the warning going for right now. But again, they're going to be getting new radar scans every 5 minutes. So at 7:39 p.m., that's when the radar first detected that rotation here. And that was about over Kingsville or 8 miles north of Middle River. And that happened here about 20 minutes ago. The speed has picked up, though. So before it was moving at 15 miles per hour. Now I'm getting a new update showing that it's moving closer to 20 miles per hour. So if you are in the direct path of that red polygon, just be careful. There could be flying debris. You don't want to look out your window. There could be tree damage. Lots of power outages could be a possibility. So you got to be careful of that. Now this is moving towards Bel Air South, Bel Air North, Riverside, Pleasant Hills, and Perryman. And all those towns are going to be in the path of this here. Other locations that could be potentially impacted include Fork, Benson, Hartford, Furnace, and also Upper Falls, those areas. And you can also include Belcamp in there as well as Bradshaw. So again, we're going to be waiting to see our newest update and see if it is 8 o'clock right now. So we're going to go ahead and check back in and go ahead and pull up that warning. And it looks like they will extend the warning for another 15 minutes until 8:15 p.m. And so that means that we're going to be staying on the air with you here while we are waiting for that warning to hopefully expire. That means that we still got another 15 minutes here of tracking this storm for you. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the current track on it because that at this point is old data. All right. And so let's go ahead and take a look at the storm. And I want to go ahead and look at the cities and towns nearby. So I need to go back to my other radar here. And there we go. Now I can look at the other cities and towns. And so Riverside is just to the north of this. You'll notice that as we zoom in, the cool thing with Doppler radar is that it gives us this unique ability to get down the street level, okay? And right now, as we do get down the street level, you'll notice that we're able to pick up some of these smaller towns that we wouldn't ordinarily be able to look at here. So we have Bright Oaks, we have Broadview, we have Crestwell, and we have Fountain Glen, all these areas, again, right under that hail core. And the reason why I'm pointing out these towns is because if you are in a place like Broadview, you are directly under that hail core. The rotation is just to your south. And so you look outside, it's dark and it's orange and it's green. I'm actually more concerned about hail for places like Broadview opposed to the tornado, because you got to remember, your tornadic circulation is going to be the southwest side of the storm. This is going to be your hail core. This is where most of the downdrafts occur. So this is where the heaviest rain is going to be, and also where the worst lightning is going to be. Heavy wind as well, strong winds, I should say. When we looked at our previous graphic that talked about the wind, we're getting reports of winds up to 60 miles per hour. That's about the equivalent of a low-end EF0 tornado, all right? So even if you don't get a tornado, 60-mile-per-hour winds, that can still put out power for you here. And speaking of that, we may actually have a product that allows us to better look here at power outages. That's one of the good things about what this program allows us to do, is be able to better see power outages and stuff like that. So I'm going to go back into analysis here, and we're going to go ahead and take a look here at the radar. I'm not seeing any sort of power outages right now. That is good. Or I'm not seeing widespread. We are definitely getting power outages, but not widespread outside of this area here. And in fact, is it possible for, Jeff, for somebody in the newsroom to check on power outages or to make a phone call?
I can look that up right now.
All right, yeah.
I'll look up BG.
Yep, so Jeff is going to go ahead and take a look at power outages here, because we are going to be, I mean, this is a very, very nasty storm here that we are tracking right now. And again, I mean, I don't want to sound like a broken record here, but I keep on coming back to this graphic right here that talks about 6-hour rainfall. So this is another tool that the Doppler radar allows us to do. And essentially what we can do is look at the radar and see how much rain has fallen out of those clouds within the last 6 hours or so. Pleasant Hills and Kingsville. I mean, you get into that darker red. Granted, it doesn't cover a whole lot of area, but some areas could see up and over 5 inches of rainfall. I am extremely concerned about flooding out there today. This is radar indicated rainfall upwards of 5 inches, 4 inches here just off to the east. And then as we head up to the north, also getting reports of 3 inches as well. Do you have an update?
Yeah, so we have about 3,500 customers from BGE that are dealing with outages right now. So a pretty small number. There's a decent group north of Kingsville that is dealing with an outage. That is about 156 customers. There's also about 861 in Bel Air that are dealing with this. About a little over 1,000 in the Falston area, probably about 1,500. That area is pretty heavily wooded. It's dense forest for some of that area as well, so you're probably dealing with a lot of saturation of the ground. Like you said earlier, we got 5 inches of rain just in the Kingsville area, so now they're probably dealing with saturated ground. You're talking about 60-mile-per-hour winds. Those trees are a threat to come down, and power lines are at risk in that area.
And I want to talk a bit more about the winds, because where you get these darker pinkish colors, I mean, we're looking at winds 46 miles per hour, 40 miles per hour near Kingsville, 40 miles per hour south of Riverside. And as we head up towards Falston, not as bad up there, but we have been, and honestly, that 46, I feel like that's lower than what we have had reported. I feel like at the start of the storm, the winds were a lot more intense than that. So again, this is moving off to the northeast right now, and that tornado warning expires at 8:15. So if you're just now joining our coverage, we had that tornado warning that initially went from 7:45. They said, okay, let's give it some time. Let's give it till 8 o'clock. At 8 o'clock, we're going to go ahead. We're going to look at some new data, and we're going to reassess it. Well, now, just within the past 5 minutes, they said, hey, this storm is still producing rotation. We're still getting winds twirling with height. So we got to keep this warning around for another hot minute. And so they're keeping it around for another 15 minutes here for parts of Hartford County. And that is, again, at 15 minutes, which is in 9 minutes, they're going to reassess again. And if there's still rotation, They're going to add it for another 15 minutes. I mean, this could go on for who knows how long. Aberdeen, just outside that cone. Again, see that little blinking red cone? That is where that tornado warning is, and that is just south of Bel Air. If you're in Bel Air, am I immediately concerned about the risk of a tornado for you? No, I'm more so concerned about hail because that hail core is very close to you. The tornado, though, is just down to the south near Joppatown right now, and that's moving northeast at 15 miles per hour. It has picked up a little bit of speed. An hour ago, this was moving at 10 miles per hour. Remember, it was stationary. We were just tracking loads of rain falling over one area for many hours. Now it's picked up a little bit of speed. As it pertains to the flooding, that is a good thing because you don't want these storms to just sit on top of you. That's where you get widespread flooding here. And so hopefully the flooding risk will eventually subside as we head into tonight. But right now, that's not the case. You got more?
Update from BGE, they must have just refreshed. They are now up to about 4,800 customers that are without power. So it seems like some of the damage from this storm is starting to be affecting the power customers that are in the area for BGE, and we're starting to get some more reports. You can see the map updated right there on the screen now. There is a couple different of those clusters of people that are dealing with power outages, some over 1,000 for those clusters. People in the basically from Kingsville all the way up to Bel Air is kind of where this storm has just sat for a while, and they're the ones dealing with those power outages.
Yeah, the storm has just been sitting on those areas. So you just heard, what was the number again?
4,800.
4,800 without power. That number will climb. I can promise you that much, because when you're getting hail and you're getting wind, what we've been seeing, you're going to get down trees. And when the trees fall, they knock out power lines, and then it can take 20, 30 minutes in order for us to get that data. So there's a bit of a delay. So that number will be increasing. Nonetheless, though, Hartford County, you have that warning until about 8:15 p.m. Now, you know what I'm actually not seeing as much of? At 8 o'clock, I saw a bit more of a hook echo. The storm kind of, made like that kind of shape, like kind of Cape Cod, right? It looked like a hook. I'm not seeing that as much right now. Typically, that's a good thing. Typically, that means that it has passed its maturing stage and it's going in, starting the decline into the decaying stage. I'm hoping that's what we're seeing, but I'm mostly concerned about this hail. Man, I've not seen colors on reflectivity that bright in a long time. There is quite a bit of hail right now showing up on that map, so that is obviously to be of concern. Now, we are going to be tracking that rotation too. That's another thing that I want to talk about right now. So actually, I need to get rid of this. I'm going to clear this out of the way here, and I'm going to turn off the warning just so I can specifically look here at the wind. And okay, so as we get a look here, again, this area, I'll come and point it out to you, but this is where the radar depicted that rotation, and that would be right there. So the green, the wind is going towards the radar. The red is the wind going away from the radar. So you've got wind going away, wind going towards the radar. So this is where you get that little spin right there, that counterclockwise spin that can form into a tornado. Now keep in mind, the radar is depicting that change in wind speed and direction at about 10,000 feet. So at 10,000 feet, you've got that circulation. You got the winds going counterclockwise. That doesn't mean it's going to make it down to the ground. We haven't had any ground confirmation of a tornado. We haven't had any viewers call us up yet. And by all means, if you actually see something, say something and tell us, please, because it makes our job easier. But right now, what we can say is we have the tools that we have. We're playing the cards that we're dealt, and what we are seeing are winds changing direction with height. And so that's what we're sticking to right now. I-95, though, you got a lot of vehicles, though, passing through this. It's just after rush hour here on a Monday. So you got a lot of folks traveling, maybe 4th of July travel plans, and that is right under that rotation. That rotation is literally right over Highway 40 and Highway 95, Interstate 95, heading towards Riverside, moving northeast at 15 miles per hour. So that will put it here in Riverside within the next 2 to 3 minutes. If you are in Riverside, that rotation is heading towards you. And so I want you to be mindful of that, and I don't want you to go outside and look at the storm. I don't want you to go out and try to take pictures and photos for social media. I want you to be inside in your safe spot and protecting yourself and your family, because this time of the year, I mean, we've already have had tornadoes around here. We had one in Baltimore City back in May. It can happen again. We do get these storms occasionally around here, and we just want to be your friend and make sure that you are prepared for this here.
Yeah, we're trying to get some traffic cameras up here, Dylan. We're trying to see if we can notice anything in the area. You can take a look there. This is just outside of Aberdeen along I-95. This is looking south in that area. You can just see how dark that sky is there. A lot of rain. It's been raining in this area for a very long time. Those roadways are going to be slick. You're probably going to have some pooling, some puddling on the roads. Best case scenario, if you have to be in the Harford County, eastern Baltimore County area, hunker down and stay inside until this storm passes. Eventually, it's got to leave the area, even though it's been here for, over 2 hours just dumping rain on Kingsville. And you look at those cars seem to be going slower. Luckily, traffic seems like it's, no one seems to be speeding through the area. It doesn't look like those trees are moving too much via the wind there, Dylan. It looks like a lot of that, those trees aren't being swayed too much. Tough to tell on a traffic camera exactly what's happening. But when we had that tornado back in May, you could definitely see the wind moving things. You can see a lot of lightning in this area as those cars are traveling on this is southern I-95, southbound I-95 near Maryland 22. This is just outside of Aberdeen.
So two things I want to point out here. So you saw in the traffic cams, obviously, the heavy rainfall. I mean, I know for a fact that we're getting some really bad flooding out of this here. The rotation appears to be weakening a bit, at least from what I saw with our latest radar scan that came in within the past 3 minutes. Something that has been a bit worse, that's actually getting worse, is the hail. And again, the blinking red polygon, that would be the tornado warning. The hail, though, I mean, that's the most pronounced I've seen it all night long. And I was looking at a report from the National Weather Service showing that we have been getting reports of hail up to 3/4 diameter hail. So, I mean, you're talking some pretty large hail. That can cause some damage out there. So we're talking some widespread hail. And also, this is another update that we just got. I just noticed this within the past 30 seconds, is that they have extended that aerial flood warning here to include Jarrettsville up to the northwest here. So that does not include Darlington, but it does include Bel Air, it does include Ballston, and it does include Baldwin as well, as we are looking at some pretty large hail. I mean, I have not seen hail showing up on the radar that strong in quite some time here. Yeah, and it's all characteristic of that pinkish magenta-like color on the map. And so where you see that color, that's where there could be certainly some hail. Harford County, 8:15, will it expire? It's in 30 seconds. We'll find out whether or not they continue the warning or if they discontinue the warning. I'm going to check my NWS chat right now, and they're showing that, hold on, I'm just reading something right now. So they are in communication. So they're working with local emergency managers right now to see if there's any credible reports of damage. So far, we have not seen or heard any credible reports of damage, but again, we'll go ahead and let you know whether or not that happens. And this warning, so not only did they extend it, they also broadened the view until 8:45 p.m. So this tornado warning is in effect now until 8:45 p.m. tonight. So it's been extended another half hour. And so that means that they expect that rotation to continue for quite a bit longer here, as that storm is going to be moving off to the east. You can see that rotation on the map right there, moving towards Aberdeen right now. So let's go ahead and stop the radar. Let's put back on the reflectivity. And so you can see that this is moving off to the east. And we'll go ahead and draw this out. So I'm going to draw out a tracker cone from where that rotation is, all right? So let's go right down through the middle. And this is showing that it could impact Riverside, Perryman, some other towns in the warning include Aberdeen, and then also Aberdeen Proving Ground here by about 8:39 p.m. That's if it stays on its current trajectory. This is moving northeast here at about 15 miles per hour, so it hasn't sped up, it hasn't slowed down. It just has basically maintained its pace right now. So if you are in any of these towns, Perryman, Riverside, Aberdeen, it's heading towards you. So you want to make sure that you are in your safe spot. You want to make sure that you are seeking shelter. And you don't want to be outside looking at the storm, because we are going to be looking at some whipping winds, some very heavy rainfall, the potential of half-inch diameter hail. So a couple things that we're going to be tracking here. This is also moving towards Havre de Grace here. Now the warning is basically, that's at the end of the warning. It's at that line. So it may expire before it makes it to you guys. Port Deposit is not in the warning. It's basically going to be covering Riverside here, Aberdeen. Again, these towns right in the middle are what I'm going to be most concerned about here as we track the storm as it moves off to the east.
And Dylan, this is an area where we've been watching this storm for a while. You can take a look there. That is I-95 northbound at Maryland 24. That's outside of Abingdon. So you get another look at 95 there. Tough conditions if you're driving on outside. Not recommended right now, but if you are, you definitely need to take things slow if you're in this area. But Dylan, we've watched this storm pretty much sit over this area for the last 2 hours, and now you're finally getting that tornado warning extended out farther. These areas that would expect to get it eventually if this was a normally behaving tornado haven't seen it at all, and now they're finally maybe getting a chance at Aberdeen, Havre de Grace, to where they do have to heed.
And a lot of these areas have not seen this kind of weather in a long time, too. And so even more so than the tornado threat, I mean, we're looking at these aerial flood warnings here in effect until 10:45 p.m. here. So again, this is moving northeast at about 15 miles per hour. The flood warning goes until 10:45. And then as I click on the tornado warning, that goes until 8:45. That is another 28 minutes or so.
So let me take a look here. I'm going to pull up the BGE outage map again, once again, see if we can try and figure out just how many people are dealing with power outages, because like we've said, we've been watching this. It looks like 4,400 customers so far, but it is going to take a little bit for that reporting to happen. It doesn't necessarily come in right away as these winds are picking up. Trees that have been getting just water dumped on them for hours at this point are getting more and more, the ground gets more and more saturated. It becomes easier and easier for winds to knock those trees down. Power lines become victims to those trees, and then you're dealing with that issue. Also, if you're driving through, a lot of these places have back roads. They aren't as easily to drive as 95. You got to watch because of those down trees. They can block your route. You can be dealing with 5 inches of rain that has washed away culverts and situations where you don't know if that road underneath of that flooding is still there anymore. So you need to be careful when you're driving through these areas to make sure you're not driving over a place that doesn't actually have any more asphalt.
And you bring up turn around, don't drown. A lot of low-lying areas, you get the rain that comes down from some of the hills. Once you get north of town, you do have a few more hills. If you look at the topography, and this map actually does a pretty good job at depicting the topography, you see all the little hills here. And so if you're talking 5 inches of rain hitting a hilltop, it's got to go somewhere, and all that water is going to go downstream. You better believe, I know for a fact that we're going to be dealing with widespread flooding. It's not a matter of if, but how bad will it be? And so the flooding risk is really bad. Still have not received ground confirmation of a tornado. This is all radar indicated. So the difference is that with a ground confirmation, you get a pedestrian or you get a viewer or somebody, emergency manager, who says, hey, there's a tornado here. In this case, we don't have that because nobody's actually seen a tornado. All we see are that the winds are rotating within the cloud, which is warranted enough to hop on the air and stay with you here because, you know, a good number of times we actually do get a touchdown here. And so we want to be with you in case that happens to be tonight, in case we do get a touchdown. So Aberdeen, Port Deposit, areas to the north, mainly dealing with the hail. The circulation is moving northeast at about 15 miles per hour. Right now it's 8:20. That warning expires at 8:45 with it being extended. Also, something else, though, take a look at how much broader that cone is. Before, it was just, you know, a nice, light, small cone. Now this covers a lot more jurisdiction, covering a much greater area. And so that means that areas down to the south may get in on some of that rotation as well. They extended that warning farther to the south for a reason, because anywhere within the storm, you could get a spin up. That's the thing to keep in mind. Yes, typically it's normally at that appendage where you get that hook, where you get that inflow, but you know, meteorology is a science. It doesn't follow a strict book, right? It can do whatever it wants. And sometimes I have seen situations where you'll get these weak spin-ups here. Sometimes along the forward flank downdraft, you'll get these quick, weak spin-ups. And so we're just trying to cross our T's and dot our I's and just, you know, cover all grounds possible and make sure that we are with you until the threat has gone away. Right now, though, we still have that threat. You can see, you probably just saw it here a second ago, we got that new radar scan. And right there, see that little inflow? Right there, just to the north of Edgewood. That's Highway 40, just to the east of Joppatown. That inflow right there. If there is a tornado, that's where it's happening, right there, where that inflow is. That's what I'm particularly concerned about right now. And again, this is moving northeast at 15 miles per hour. We've got Highway 70, Highway 40. It's rush hour. It's past rush hour now, but still, folks are going to be on the roadways going out, getting food, getting dinner. We just want you to be safe this evening. That's all, as this is going to be tracking through a pretty densely populated area. So we just want to make sure to keep you updated on that. Jeff, do you have anything else that you need to add? Yeah, we're getting an update here from the Harford County, Maryland Fire and EMS. They have posted that there's a tree down blocking Guyton Road on Falston. You're probably going to be seeing a lot of these pop up throughout the area as it continues. They're also dealing with a structure fire over there as well. You can take a look at this. This appears to be I-95 north of Maryland. I'm trying to make that out there. That is 543. So you're seeing that 95, which is typically a very busy roadway at this point, there's not anyone that I'm seeing in the picture on the northbound frame of I-95. That is very rare for 8:30 any night of the week, how busy 95 is, any part of 95. So you can just understand that people are heeding these warnings. They're either pulling off and allowing the storm to pass, or they have just decided to stay home tonight. You can just see how much of 95 is in that storm, that picture on the left there, and how much of 95 is covered in that tornado warning as well. You can see a lot of people driving with their flashers on. We can't tell speed here, but you can imagine that they are going very slow with that heavy amount of rain, the high winds, and it looks like just some large clumps of rain, possibly even hail that are falling in that area as well, Dylan. And Jeff, did you notice when the cars are moving through, look at all the standing, wow. Yeah. Wow, I just noticed that, how much standing water we have on the roadways. Folks, we have a major, major flooding situation happening right now. Major, major. I mean, take a look at this right here. Look at the cars traveling along the roadways on that last image. You could actually see it. So hydroplaning, big concern. That's when you hit the roadway going fast, you have ½ an inch of water, your tire does not make contact with the surface, and then what ends up happening is that people can crash into guardrails and go off the road. You don't have to speed this evening. Just get to where you got to go safely here. I mean, Perryman right now, Aberdeen, just really getting hit with that heavy rainfall. And that image, that camera was right on I-95 moving through Aberdeen and Perryman. So that's where that heavy rainfall is. I mean, we're talking torrential rainfall, 2 to 3 inches per hour. And the storm is not moving quickly. Normally, you get heavy rainfall. You get a heavy thunderstorm, and the rain comes down heavily for 20, 30 minutes, and then it goes away. That hasn't been the case today because these storms have been so stationary, basically on top of the same areas, and they just haven't been moving all that much here. All right, so as we head towards Perryman and Bel Air, both these areas, again, kind of on the fringes of where the heaviest rainfall is, but I-95 just kind of cuts right through it here. 825, yeah, it's 825. Let me check and see if I have a new wind update, a new velocity update here, just to kind of show you, give you the scoop on where things stand as of right now. So let me go ahead and go back into analysis. Again, here's your warning. Just to make things easier, let's make the screen less cluttered for you. And we'll go ahead and put on the velocity. And so a couple things to point out here. This is looking at the wind profile, and you'll notice that, of course, we'll still keep up on the screen the roadway camera, but you'll notice that we have a couple of things right here. So we have the wind going towards the radar, wind going away from the radar. What did we see an hour ago? We saw bright green and bright red. Now what do we see? We are looking at bright green. We're not seeing as much bright red showing up here on the map. So that means that the velocity isn't as impressive.
Dylan, I don't want to interrupt you there, but if we can pull that traffic camera up, just look how much this traffic camera is shaking right now and how much water is being pushed across I-95. There is water being sent all the way across 95. The camera is shaking. We've been watching this for a pretty decent amount of time. This is the most that we've seen any camera shake today. You can just see how intense that wind is there. Some of those drivers that are stuck out in this, having to deal with this crawling through 95 because of the intense wind, the intense rain, and you can just see, I can't tell if that's surface rain or surface water or if it's rain whipping across 95.
Can we get an exact location on where that camera is located? Do we know exactly where that camera is? I-95 North, is that 543?
That's right outside of Abingdon, Dylan, I'm being told, right outside of Abingdon.
Okay.
Yeah,
because you notice how the wind picked up for only a couple of minutes really badly?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm almost wondering, and I'm not going to speculate too much, but there is a possibility that could have been a weak tornado.
Yeah, it flashed up while it was up there. The camera started shaking, and you see now it's calm. The winds have died down, but for a moment there, you saw just how fast that camera was moving and that wind was whipping the water across your screen.
Wow. I want to keep these cameras up a bit longer because, yeah, let's keep it in the corner of the screen because this is some ground confirmation of what's happening right now. And wow, I mean, that is just remarkable heavy rainfall that we are tracking. You can see cars there with their flashes on, but if you were watching 5 minutes ago, you saw that quick wind that was blowing across the road. I'm not going to speculate too much because we have to get confirmation, but it could have been possible that was a weak tornado because it was hardly any wind and then it was blowing like crazy for a couple of minutes and then it went away. So it's possible we could have seen a weak mesocyclone rolling through the area there. Again, this is I-95 just outside of Aberdeen here. And I just can't believe for 8 o'clock here on a Tuesday night how few cars we're seeing out there on the roadway. I guess it's Monday, isn't it? I can't believe how few cars we are seeing out there on the roadways right now because normally I-95 is a parking lot here, but wow, just remarkable, Jeff.
Yeah, this is absolutely incredible to see how much it quickly changed to where you saw that camera shaking and now it's the camera itself is calm, still very treacherous conditions to be out driving in. I did look at the BGE outage map just a moment ago. It looks like we're back under 4,000 customers that are dealing with outages right now. So happy to report that there aren't widespread power outages reported as of now. It looks like you can see some of these cars picking up. So it looks like a lot of people did pause for a moment there on 95, wondering if they noticed something coming through and decided to stop, or if they notice the wind's picking up.
Can we make the camera full screen again? So I'm just curious. I'm just trying to see how much water right now we have standing on the roadways here. The wind is definitely a lot quieter here. You can see though, you can see that 18-wheeler though, the water on both sides of his tires as he's moving on through. You can see that white car there. I mean, we have standing water on the interstate, which I mean, when they construct these roadways, they plan for this. They plan for ways for the water to get off the roadway quickly. So these state highway officials, they are smart in how they design all of this. But the interesting thing that we're seeing right here is that we've had so much water, it doesn't have anywhere to go. And we've had rain over the past several days, and so the ground is unable to absorb it as well. The amount of lightning that we are seeing is unfathomable. I mean, we have been seeing lightning all night long, but the density of it has been picking up as well.
Yeah, and you just watch this. A lot of cars now are moving through, so you wonder if they realized that it was getting worse. They've slowed down. It's been very difficult if you're traveling. This is I-95 North. It's just outside of Abingdon. And you've seen throughout the evening, this area has just been getting pummeled with downpours of rain pretty much for the last, 2, maybe even at this point, probably more than 3 hours, Dylan. They've been getting rain in this area. And I think remember correctly, in the Kingsville area, Falston, they were at 5 inches of rain. You're probably approaching that in some of these areas in northern into Harford County at this point, beyond just that eastern portion of Baltimore County that's dealing with this for a while. We've seen some images on social media of people dealing with flooding in the area. We've heard some reports of downed trees, some areas where there are downed wires. If there's a downed wire, don't even go near it. Don't get out of your car. Call someone, call the emergency officials. They will get out there and deal with that. You should not be trying to attempt to move those down power lines. Even if you see a tree on it, you never know what's still active. Make sure you're being cautious of any low-lying areas where there's puddling on the roadway. This water can easily get underneath and just erode at the underneath ground and take out asphalt and to where you're driving on, not understanding that it might not look like a ton of water, but you're really driving on nothing. And that's how bad things can really happen. We've seen it. I've been in these situations where we're out covering these stories, Dylan, and all of a sudden you come up on a rescue operation because someone thought the road was, only covered in an inch or two of water, and they didn't realize that there was no road underneath. So you have to be really careful in these situations if you are going to be out. Best to just stay inside if you can. So again, we're looking I-95 north of Maryland 543. This is just outside of Abingdon. Dylan, you want to look at and we have another camera that we're going to pull up here as well.
Yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at that other camera.
Yeah, so this is Aberdeen. It looks like this is kind of where a lot of that heavy rain on the radar is. I know it's not up on your screen, but you see that is I-95 north, and there is not a soul on the northbound side of I-95 right now, Bill.
Hardly any traffic at all.
Yeah.
You'll notice that I-95 south, like you just mentioned, lots of traffic showing up there as well. And, you brought up something relevant here a few minutes ago, and I think you might be right. A lot of vehicles probably pulled over, and now as things are lighter, they're taking off again. That's the only explanation for why the traffic is so much heavier on the other side.
Yeah, you're hoping you're allowing that storm to pass over you. Once it calms down, you can maybe just coast behind it. You see how slow a lot of cars that we've seen with their four-way flashers on as they're driving down the road. You see them kicking up that water. This is just outside of Aberdeen if you're just joining us, Aberdeen Hills. So I-95 northbound right now, very few cars out. A lot of people coming southbound who may not understand what they're driving into, but just treacherous conditions to try and travel.
Exactly. This warning set to expire in just 11 minutes from now at 8:45. We are still tracking very heavy hail. I did look at the Weather Service, the National Weather Service's messaging for the storm, and they have downed it to quarter-size hail at this point. So that's good. At one point, we were talking half-inch to maybe three-quarter-inch diameter hail. I mean, that's pretty big hail for especially the East Coast, but that's no longer the case. Now that hook echo it's a little bit more subdued, right? It's not quite as pronounced as it was even a half hour to 45 minutes ago. You'll notice that we have that red polygon right there again. Storm, this is very, very exceptionally heavy rainfall. We've had over 5 inches of rain in some parts of the region today. I mean, that's an exceptionally high number for rainfall here. To get that in to get that in a month is good, but to get that in 5 hours, whew, that's just so much. So, again, we are going to be looking here. The warning is still blinking right now, so I'm wondering if that means that they're going to let it expire earlier or not, because normally that means that there's a new update coming in. So I'll be sure to keep you posted on that as soon as we get new messaging here. As we head off to the west side, Edgewood, you guys are in the clear. Earlier, not so much. You guys were kind of ground zero where that rotation was. Now things are looking better. As we head off to Falston and Bel Air, you guys are now pretty much in the clear because the rotation is going to be closer to Aberdeen. So if you live in Aberdeen or if you live in even Havre de Grace, we're going to be looking at that storm pushing up towards you. If you are in Havre de Grace, I'm not particularly concerned about an imminent threat, but give it another half hour or so, we'll see exactly what the trajectory of the storm is. Technically, you are on the outer side of that warning polygon, so I wouldn't go outside. I wouldn't go anywhere. I'd stay inside, but I'm not worried about an imminent threat, at least not for the next 20 to 30 minutes or so. But you can still see we are still getting some inflow right there. You can see the winds going into the storm. They kind of wrap around. Then you get that counterclockwise spin. That's what we call a mesocyclone. So you get that cyclone that's basically just refers to a spinning updraft, if you will, here. We'll make it really easy for you. So that's what we're looking at right now. And that's moving northeast. I-95, though, this cuts right over I-95 where we're tracking so much traffic right now. So that's going to be another concern. And then as we head off to the southwest a bit, Highway 40 and parts of Highway 7, again, we're still tracking that. Whew. Wow, where's that located? US 40 south?
That is right in Aberdeen. That is in Aberdeen.
Oh, my goodness.
Not on 95 anymore. You can just, wow.
Lightning just went out.
Yeah, the power just went out there.
Wow. Yeah, the power clearly just went out. Let's stay on the, can we bring this full screen? Wow.
We just saw the power flash there. Luckily, everything came back up. I couldn't tell if that was from a lightning strike or what caused that.
I saw a lightning strike right before the power went out. And so I'm not sure if it was that particular strike that hit a transformer nearby or, you know, what exactly happened.
Yeah, what exactly caused it. Wow, some very powerful.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate we can't really zoom in or see anything with these past beyond what they already are. Oh, another one. There it is. It looks like...
And also, keep in mind, though...
See the right side of your screen there, Dylan?
Yeah.
I think that's the blown transformer there. You see the power...
Yeah.
The lights, the street lights are out.
Well, that street light is still working because it went from yellow, it went from green to yellow to red.
Yeah, the street light itself, but
everything else appears to be out. And keep in mind, the sun doesn't fully go down until about 9:30 p.m. Sunset's just before 9 o'clock, but we still have that twilight until after 9. So it just shows you how dark it is out there, because typically we have daylight much longer than this. But that's not the case today because the storm clouds are so dark. Wow, that was wild. Again, the second that we went on this camera, we saw the wind, and then the wind doesn't appear to be as bad right now. So I'm wondering if this could potentially be a straight line wind event, or if there's a possibility that we did see a weak low-grade tornado. At any rate, both are equally as dangerous, so you definitely don't want to be outside. But that was kind of crazy here as we look at some of these Maryland Department of Transportation cameras. Just a massive lightning storm out there, to say the least. Wow.
And you see the traffic light is still on, but the street lights themselves have not come back on. They came back on shortly after that first strike, and then we saw another big strike of lightning. And it appears that they're out in that area of Aberdeen. That's what you're looking at right now. We've been looking at 95. This is US 40 at Maryland 132. It's on your screen there. You're looking southbound on it as well. And you can't, I can't tell what that bright light on the right is, if it is just a light or if it is a blown transformer there, because it seems like it's getting brighter. There it is, getting brighter, and then also getting dimmer. So I can't tell if it's a rotating ad or if it's a blown transformer that is on fire there.
Yeah.
I just can't tell. You see it's getting orange.
Yeah, let's go back to the radar. We could split the box and put radar in one screen and keep the camera in the other side of the screen. Checking NWS chat, they're saying that they don't have any pictures of any storm reports right now. Again, this warning set to expire in 5 minutes from now. Let's give an update on the velocity, and the velocity is weakening. So that is something good, that we are looking at velocity. We're not seeing that same rotation that we did earlier today. And in fact, this is actually really, really, really unorganized at this point. It was a lot more organized even a half hour ago than what we're currently seeing right now at this time. Just to kind of show you a little bit of weather anatomy 101, you can see right here. And again, we're going to keep this camera up on the right-hand side of your screen, and I'll stay on this part of the screen. Here's your hail core. this is what we call the inflow notch, and so that's where the rotation has been. You have the wind going into the storm, and it starts rotating. That's where that's been taking place. Then as we head off to the east, we're looking at very high returns on the reflectivity. And so what that means is that hail for sure, damaging winds. You know, even if you don't actually have a tornado, sometimes what can happen is that you can get these heavy bands of rain, and these rain bands can take the strong winds at 30, 40,000 feet. Because keep in mind, these clouds go all the way up to about 40,000 feet, and it can drive down those strong winds from aloft, and that's what we call a storm outflow here. And so that's what we're looking at right now. So parts of Aberdeen, again, looking at some very, very heavy rainfall. Here's that inflow notch right now. That is actually moving into Perryman. So Perryman, this is on your doorstep. Right now, you want to be prepared. This storm is heading right towards you. So you got to be extremely prepared for this here, as it's going to be moving into your region. Places to the north, Riverside, you're just north of that rotation. I'm more so concerned about Perryman, but Riverside, you're going to be getting some very large hail possibly here as that hail core kind of wraps around. Again, I'm watching the pink on the map. That is quarter-size hail that we're tracking, and that's heading towards Riverside right now. So we're going to be keeping an eye on that. Other places that we're going to be watching for, of course, will be Havre de Grace as this moves off to the northeast. And then we're going to be looking at some other places down to the south for that rotation. We're going to be tracking and carefully watching exactly where that goes. Is that going to ride up the I-95 corridor, or is it going to stay a bit further to the east? Before, the rotation was over I-95. Now it's a little bit farther to the east. So it's going to be interesting to see exactly what direction that takes here. But nonetheless, this is a very scary situation. And as we look off on this screen over here, the lightning has been so prevalent this evening. I mean, we're just looking at so much lightning showing up on the map. We saw lightning earlier today. This is by far the worst that lightning has been all day long. And so again, this is going to be tracking off to the northeast right now at about 15 miles per hour. That warning is set to expire at about 8:45. That's in just 2 minutes. We'll see if we keep it or not. At this point in time, I'm not seeing as strong rotation here, and I'll flip on the velocity, and again earlier, and we'll go back in time and look at this, and I'll point out what I'm looking at here with you. 45 minutes ago, when this began at 7:55, I mean, look at the velocity, look at the winds moving with different direction with height. And now that's no longer the case. So now the velocity has kind of been a bit more subdued, and it's not looking quite as good. This is now approaching Cecil County. Cecil County, you guys have been quite lucky over the past hour, because all this has been down to the south, but now that's moving up to you guys. So Port Deposit, Rising Sun, Havre de Grace. Again, apologies if I'm pronouncing your town incorrectly. Just let me know and I'll correct myself. But this is moving up towards Elkton, Newark, all these towns up here will be looking at that rotation. The rotation, though, isn't as pronounced as it was earlier. You can see right there, it's strong, it's healthy, and then it's weakening quite a bit as it goes north and east. It is quickly approaching 8:45 here, and so we'll see momentarily whether or not they're going to keep the warning or whether or not they're going to get rid of it. And in the meantime, I'll go back to radar. If Jeff, you want to add something?
Yeah, Dylan, we are up to 4,700 people without power, customers without power in the area. That is, we're back now. This is outside of Aberdeen, if I'm correct. We were looking at this traffic camera earlier, just how dangerous things were getting, and now you see plenty of cars. So it appears that a lot of people who were traveling northbound on I-95 stopped. They let the storm go past them, and now they are trailing the storm. One of the things with this storm is, though, it's traveling a lot slower than your car can on I-95, because we've been watching it sit in mainly the same areas for a while. So it is not a good area to be driving in tonight if you are heading out to Harford County, over around the 95 area as well. Dylan, have they updated anything as far as this tornado warning?
Yep, so the good news is that the tornado warning has expired. That is brand new information within the past 45 seconds. So the tornado warning has expired. Now I'm really concerned about the flooding threat here as we are tracking the storm moving up to the northeast. A couple of things to keep in mind. Yes, we got rid of the tornado warning, but there's more to this than the tornado. At this point, we're still tracking winds up to 60 miles per hour. And then we're also looking at large hail and then the flood threat here. So the green on the map, this is that aerial flood warning that includes parts of Baltimore County, parts of Harford County, not quite including Cecil County, but we'll see what happens as that storm moves up to the north and east. We're not looking at the same rotation that we did earlier, but right now looking at a massive, massive flooding threat here as the storm is shifting up to the northeast. Again, you know, we don't ever want to break into your normal TV viewing if we don't have to, but you got to remember, we are a service to the public, all right? So think about it that way. We are a service to you, a free service to the public here. So just like you want to call 911 if you have a heart attack, you also want to be able to have a meteorologist that can give you free life-saving information here. So that's our job, and that's why we were staying with you guys for the last several hours. We saw that original warning at 5 o'clock, and now we're looking at the warning eventually going away. They reissued it here just after 7:30, but now we have seen the rotation go away. Now we're just looking at a very heavy rain threat. So at this point in time, we're going to stick around for a couple more minutes. Typically, we hop off air when a tornado warning expires, but I'm really concerned about some of the strong winds that we're going to be looking at over here. In the meantime, do we have any updates from anyone on outages or anything like that, Jeff?
We're at about 5,000 people that have been dealing with power outages, according to the BGE outage map. You saw that traffic camera in Aberdeen where they were dealing with power outages along the roadway there. They had gotten a very large lightning strike. You can just see how much lightning is flashing on that camera there, I-95 northbound heading above Maryland 22 there, north of 22 on I-95. You can just see how much lightning continues to flash. This same area, for the most part, has been getting this rain for what seems like hours now. So they have been dealing with this for quite some time. You can see 95 normally doesn't, when we look at these traffic cameras, normally isn't empty in one direction, and we've been seeing this over and over again where there's maybe one or two cars, or even now pretty much no cars for a very long stretch on I-95. You can just tell people are very concerned with their driving, making sure that they're being safe, which is a good thing. You can see there, Dylan, what are you pulling up there, buddy?
Yeah, so what we are pulling up right here is rainfall. This is 3-hour rainfall here, and I can go back and do you one better and do 6-hour rainfall. And so what I want to do is point out for you how much we have seen. And west of Pleasant Hills, we've seen over 5.2. Kingsville, around 4.8. Bel Air, around 2.2. And then north of Falston, about 3 inches. North of Riverside, 3.2. Lower amounts in Riverside, only about 1.8. Aberdeen, about 2.4 inches as well. So this is a lot of rainfall.
And for some of these areas, this seems like more than what you'd get in a month.
This is more than what you get in a month. I think we average about 4 inches in a month, and we're talking 5.2. 5.2, that's like that much rainfall. There's hilly terrain, and so the water's got to go somewhere. So that is a big concern. So just please be careful with the flooding, because there will be low-lying water here out there tonight. So stream flooding, definitely a possibility. And typically, streams respond quickly, but the other rivers take a couple of days here to respond. Places out to the east, again, you're not looking at as much rainfall out here, not yet. The storm is heading towards you, and so I'm concerned that we are going to be looking at these large rainfall amounts also out towards Havre de Grace and Charlestown as well. So I'm going to go ahead and put back on the radar. I am seeing something promising, and I think I might have good news for you. Let me go ahead and clear this out the way. As we look at the radar, you'll notice that as we play this back over the last 30 minutes, let's put a loop on it here. We're not seeing as high returns out towards the west, out towards Riverside, but now we are still tracking some very heavy rainfall near Aberdeen and out towards Havre de Grace. And so we're going to be tracking this throughout the night. I mean, this is going to be definitely a long night for sure. Luckily, though, the rotation has gone away. That's the most important thing. Right now, we don't currently have a warning. The rainfall, though, the hail, those will be the two biggest things that we are tracking here. And so what I'm thinking right now is that because this is moving off to the east, yes, we are still tracking some very heavy returns on the radar, but we're not seeing that tornado warning anymore. So that has since expired. So that is some good news. I do think at this time we're going to monitor the radar. We'll keep you updated here on the heavy rainfall. The heavy rainfall threat is not going away. You want to be staying inside. You want to stay off the roads tonight. But at this point, I think that we're going to get you back to your regularly scheduled programming. If there is a newly issued warning that is issued, I'll make sure to hop back on here, and I'll be here for you as we head through the evening tonight.